Good morning, friends. This is Mary from Rocky Mountain Gardens. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you are one of my regulars. Before we go out into the garden this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite subjects. One is tea. And today I have made a cup of very nice peppermint tea made by a company called Stash. Here's one of their tea bags. Now Stash produces their peppermint right here in America in the Pacific Northwest, and they have a very pure peppermint tea, has nothing else in it, no preservatives, and it's a very finely grown peppermint that they use to produce their teas. So I do highly recommend this. Now, according to their instructions, you are to steep their herbal tea, has no caffeine, and you steep it for 3 to 5 minutes. And I always do enjoy just a tad bit of sugar in my peppermint tea. To me, the sweetness, and of course you could use honey, but the sweetness brings out the peppermint just a little bit more. So we'll get that ready in just a moment. Well, I wanted to share with you something that I got just last week. My brother and his family came to visit me, and our mom passed away about a year ago, and my brother brought out her wedding china to me. And of course I will be using this in some future videos. But this pattern, let me stand up and give you a close-up of this pattern. It's a little bit plain, and it's on this sort of cream colored china with a gold rim. And the pattern is called Winslow. It was produced by a company called Edwin M. Knowles China Company in the United States, made right here. And it was a company that started producing under the name of Knowles China about 1900, and they stopped producing in 1962. Now, my parents were married in the 1950s, and they received a set of this Winslow china for their wedding gift. I'm sure various family members chipped in to be able to afford this, because of course it was right after the war. And unfortunately, I don't have the entire set. I have these small little bowls and the soup bowl that I showed you. I have a few salad plates and only 2 dinner plates. No cups or saucers, unfortunately. But you know what I'm going to do? I am planning to go ahead and get on a little bit of a hunt, looking around in our antique and vintage stores here in Colorado, and see if I can find a few cups and saucers to go with this set. It's special, of course, because it was my mom and dad's, and now, I'm hoping I can use it and enjoy it for entertaining and little tea parties. So with my peppermint tea this morning, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put on my garden clothes and run out to my backyard so that I can show you how I'm going to be planting a very new plant for me, something I think you should all know about for your gardens, and it is called Kinsley's Ghost Honeysuckle. So let's get out into the garden and learn about this really interesting honeysuckle and get it planted. And here is my plant, Kinsley's Ghost, which is a rare and unusual variety of honeysuckle. Now, there was a gentleman, let me check his name, William Kinsley, who worked, I believe, as a botanist at Iowa State University. And he created this heirloom vine in the 1880s. Now, he only shared it with his family members or personal friends. So he propagated it, but he never sold it commercially. I saw the vine last summer during our Colorado Springs garden tour at one of our gardens, and I was like, oh my goodness, I must have that vine in my garden. So I hunted and found it for sale with High Country Gardens, which is a mail order company out west here. And they sent me 2 plants. Now this one has done well. I've kept it indoors because we have had such cold weather on and off. But this one doesn't look so good. I'm just hoping that after I plant it, it will become more vigorous and really take off. In the history of this vine, it sort of disappeared for a number of years, and then it was rediscovered in Fort Collins, Colorado, at the garden of a relative of Kinsley. And since then it has been propagated and continued to be growing and is available commercially now. And like I said, I was able to find it at High Country Gardens. If you'd like to know more about that company, I'll put a link to their website in my description box for you. It grows from 8 to 12 feet tall and is winter hardy down to zone 4. If you like the looks of this honeysuckle vine, which is quite unusual, I suggest you order some for yourself because it is simply spectacular. Okay, let's go over to the spot where I'm going to be planting it by my shed and get started. Kinsley's Ghost is a vine that can be very heavy and it does need support. So I am going to be using this structure that I bought from a garden supply catalog sort of online store. It's called Kinsman's. And I want to show you what is unique about it because you can't see it yet here, but on my shed where I'm going to be placing this structure, I have a very narrow space. But Kinsman sells this trellis that is expandable. So let me give you an example. Here, I can make it very tall and thin if that's the sort of space I have, or it can be very short and wide depending on what your needs are for the space you have for your vine. So this is fantastic and it's very inexpensive. I think it was around $18. So I'm going to be installing it right here on the wall of my shed. And first I am drilling some pilot holes into the wood here on my shed. And next, you can see this is the little hook that I'm going to be using to hang the trellis with, and I'm installing that right now at the tops, and I also will place 2 more lower down on the trellis to hold it where it needs to be. And then I have this vinyl covered heavier wire that I will be really securing the trellis to the hooks that it's hanging on so it won't be falling around or flopping over as my honeysuckle is growing on it. And there is a large enough space behind the trellis by using these hooks that allows the vines to grow behind. So guys, it is my goal to have my Kinsley's Ghost grow up this trellis, and across here I hope to train it. I would also love to train it up across the gable right here of my potting shed. These are the 2 drip lines that I have installed, one for each of the vines that we will be growing. And I'm adding some composted steer manure to the soil, making sure that it's rich and will support my honeysuckles. And then this is time-released Osmocote that I am adding as well. And it should help promote blooming in the future for my plants and get them off to a healthy start. And then, as you can see, I'm sort of mixing it in with my hands. A great way to get it all just put together, ready for planting. And these errant little roots that I find, I often just dig them out and throw them away so they aren't in the way of my planting. Next we have the first vine, and I will just plant a hole, and it's going to be right next to this wooden beam that you see to the left of the screen. That is holding in a special material that my garden shed was placed on to keep it nice and steady and, you know, good support for the structure. As you can see, this first vine has very good root structure on it, and I am fairly certain it's going to do quite well growing in this spot. This type of honeysuckle can take some shade. It also likes sun, and in this area right here, especially afternoon, it gets quite strong sunlight, so that should be perfect for the growth. Now, my second vine, as you saw earlier, does not look too healthy, and I'm going to give it a chance to grow and do well here. But you'll see as I take it out of the pot, I dug a deeper hole hoping that I had a good root system for this pot. But as you can see, when I remove the plant from the pot, the potting soil just falls away, and so there is not much of a root system on this plant, and therefore I am concerned that it will survive, but we'll see what happens. Just plant it there as carefully as possible. And then my next step will be to get my landscape pins to place the drip hoses in the right spot so that each of these vines is getting water. Here in Colorado Springs, we can water 3 times a week, so I have my sprinkling system set up for that, and they will get water therefore 3 times a week. Here's how I use the landscape staple to direct the drip line to the baby plant. It's very simple. And here are the 2 plants. Quite a difference in size, as you can see, but I hope that they will be growing up and filling this trellis with beautiful vines and blooms. So friends, I'm back just to say so long, and I will see you in my next video very soon. I hope you will consider subscribing so you can be sure not to miss any of my videos. I like to feature vintage things, of course, gardening and tips about gardening, special plants that you should use maybe in your garden. There's so much to learn and share. So come on back, and I hope to see you again, like I said, and have a very, very lovely week.